Physically, our first connection is with the ground. So this posture has shifted slightly. Just a subtle roll in the hips here. You know, when you're sitting on a chair meditating, the instruction is you should be on the edge of the chair. And they say for a man, your balls should be hanging off the chair. So they shouldn't be resting on the chair. So I think that's not just an instruction as to getting on the edge of the chair. It's also an instruction here. So it's like just feeling the weight of your testes, just pulling the hips slightly, and then just really allowing you to get down in a way that the connection with the ground, when I'm here, relies on me being able to really lower myself and get almost on the ground with my bum. So if I'm up here and somehow I've got my bum in and I'm doing this, I can only get down a certain way. So there's always going to be that sort of potential gap between me and the ground. So it's just rolling here, really, just letting the tail out, feeling something hanging down here underneath you. And then it just feels that your feet are just really flat on the ground. There's nothing between you and the ground conceptually. I remember John saying that one of his big breakthroughs in Tai Chi came when it felt as though that second arch in the foot, so there's this arch in the foot here, the instep, but there's also a slight arch between the ball, this side of the ball of the foot and this side of the ball of the foot. So he said there came a point where something in his feet almost collapsed and his toes just spread and he just got the whole ball of his foot on the ground. So the bubbling well actually gets onto the ground. So you get this feeling that it's just really flat and sticking. And it really requires this to stop thinking to itself. For this to think to itself, you have to break that connection between you and the ground. So the ground is no longer this living thing that's sucking you onto it. It's now just a hard surface upon which you cogitate. Gradually sort of extend the stance a little. Take it as deep as you like. We just want to see the tension that thinking requires us to institute in the lower body, especially in the groin, this area here, in this whole area here. feeling that. So your mind is still down there. So just working the spine a little through this breathing exercise, flexing and extending. Two circles. As my arms come in, it's like I'm going through the down chin and just squeezing my hips apart as I pull in here. And then just reaching forwards on the in-breath here, just squeezing everything out. Let's try breathing again. Lifting, like you're sucking something from the ground by sinking and raising your hands. up to the upper heart, and then breathing out. So you're breathing, but through the soles of the feet. So here I'm breathing in, and then here out. Let's try the heart qigong. Feeling this action really straightening the mid back and the upper back. Scanning the room, bringing it all in. And then up the spine, really. We just want the energy coming out of the spine down the arms, but also from the sacrum down the legs. Using the arm, but visualizing it in the leg as well. So here it's like I'm gathering my heart, letting it ooze out of my back and extend down the outside of my arm. Releasing the shoulder blade from the spine, which will give a look of almost like you're leaning into the arm, which in a sense you are. And just try to feel it in the leg as well. So here, my hip bone, it's as though it's releasing from the sacrum. Keep that connection with the ground. The visualization is too sort of abstract or too intent, then it will tend to bring you up into the head and you'll break the connection with the ground. So the visualization, it really is just like a vague picture or a feeling rather than something that's too clear. The wings, really the shoulder blades, but you can imagine here, like you're just catching something here and wrapping it around yourself from the back. And it's the part of your hand that catches this wing is your little finger. The little fingers are important. It's really just a connection that comes from just relaxing this area. We don't realize how much we hold on here in order to create this sort of mediating barrier between us and the world. So you've got these wings coming out of your back here. There's also wings coming out the sacrum or coming even out of the back of the hip bones here, wrapping around, but also here from the occiput. So this is more like what John called the cowl, like the monk's hood that he pulls up over his head when he prays. And this is a bit like the skirt. when you relax here, it's almost like your legs disappear. Penguin Tai Chi. So like your feet just come out here and you don't really have any legs. You just drop down. Imagine you were a penguin. My feet would be here. Putting your hands where your feet would be. And then just a sense that your hands are actually on the ground, like you're right down there. So your legs really have disappeared. When this relaxes and you really let the ground suck at you, then it is like you're going to just incline forwards and become an animal. And what we'd like is the opposite of that, which is the call of the heavens on the heart. So that in the same way that the earth is tending to pull me down and just make me lean forward, basically into a squat, if not all fours, then the call on this, the law, the pull, is lifting this upwards, but not in a physical way. This is what's very difficult. There's something operating on your spirit. There's something operating on your body. We need a mind that's big enough to allow both realities. Rolling the ball. This is actually surprisingly strong. Feel the torso. If we were sitting down meditating, then we'd be like this. The hoop of the arms sort of define your torso. So here I have my Dan Chen, which my hands are cradling. Here I have the thymus, which is trying to break out of this circle. And then in the middle, I have my heart, the heart where the Lord resides. This really, we're just tracing that circle. And right in the middle of the target is the heart. I came across a lovely phrase this morning. A pure thought from a pure heart. The heart can think, but when the heart thinks, they're pure thoughts. When the head thinks, it's like lies. It never quite means what you want to say. Poetry would be the language of the heart, and prose would be the language of the head. So like there's something here that's just really pure and true. And here I'm just encircling it. letting the waist turn with it, whichever way it wants to go. Here it's like I'm turning in order to greet someone. So my top hand becomes dominant. So the top hand is from the thymus. So I'm extending something. And then if I continue the turn, I'm yielding here. So my hand goes out. And then as it turns over, it's drawing in. And it's all very natural. And it just comes from this circle. The hand naturally turns over because it has to be on top of the circle. But on the way up, it's sort of facing upwards. All the time keeping the sacrum, the dantian, the groin, the hips relaxing so that my feet remain really flat and sucked onto the ground. Seeing just how far you can turn here. If this really is relaxed, you find you can turn quite a long way. Traditionally in the form, after we've done this and the hands come down, this is where we are really sunk. The first step, and then all of this, the legs are pretty straight. And then it's as we finish this that we get down. Do the ball again, but we'll turn the other way. Now just turn. So it's just roll back, yielding almost immediately with the top hand. And then the bottom hand comes up to attack. Let's concentrate on the yielding. People often say, which of the turns is the yield? Is it the left or is it the right? But actually, it's both. Because yielding involves, first of all, reaching out in order to capture the person's energy. And then you can think in terms of yielding it. So if I'm going to yield with my right hand, the first thing I have to do is turn to the left to extend the right hand forwards. And then once I've connected to their energy, then I can turn to the right and drain the person down into my right leg. So let's just carry on with this, but just feel I'm turning this way, and then I'm turning this way. I'm turning to the right here, and then to the left to yield. So the first turn from the front hand is easier because I'm already this way anyway, really. But then the second turn is difficult. So when I yield with the back hand, the first turn is difficult. Second turn is easy. Feel the attack now. So the yield was entering, reaching towards the person to make a connection, and then guiding their energy through, bringing some of it down your leg so that you can use it to return, using some of it just to turn, so if they're pushing strong, they can just go straight past. It's the turning that's really important. So now let's just feel the attack. So the attack is really the opposite to that. So you sort of yield a little bit first. So what that really is just digging down into the leg and bringing something up to attack. So let's just try this again. But now here, this hand, which has just finished the yielding, digs down and then comes out. This hand digs down, comes out. This hand digs down. The real sense that you're getting underneath your foot with the hand that's going to attack. So here I'm turning, I'm using my right hand, so I'm turning to the left to gather up the energy, and then I'm turning to the right to send the energy out. So this would be the uproot. And as John used to say, it's not enough just to uproot the person, you also have to slam them down. So that would just turn you the other way again. So there's actually 3 turns really to an attack. First of all, yielding, if you like, or gathering the energy, and then bringing the energy up, and then slamming the energy down. The same action as this, what we were just doing earlier, to get the wing out and get this sense of a flow from your mid-back through your shoulder blade and down the arm. So basically, when we're doing this, we're just doing an attack. Getting the arms out there really into the world. And what the same feeling here in the leg. When I step, it's not simply me putting my leg forwards. There's a flow down the leg that's extending it. You see here, when I really extend here, my shoulder blade sort of comes out, and there's a sense that my arm has just almost come out of its socket here and at the back where the shoulder blade attaches. When we step in Tai Chi, we'd like basically the same thing to happen in the leg. Here I have to extend the leg, but before it goes down, there needs to be this. So it goes down as it goes over the top of the figure of 8, if you like. So I'm extending forwards, and then here I have to really turn to this side just to get that added extension on the leg. And then you can use the turn back to draw yourself into it. If you watch like the real Chinese, the ones that do these really extravagant and dramatic forms, this is basically what they do. So I extend and then I turn. And sometimes I can get it. And there is a sense of real release here, the same way there is with the shoulder blade. Practicing it with the shoulder, what needs to happen emotionally for me to let go of the shoulder blade? It's not just a letting go in my body, it is a letting go inside, in the heart. And I think it's the same thing here. And it's difficult, it's real come and go, hit and miss. But let's just try. So it's very similar to this, what we've just done with the hand. Gathering, extending, and then Here we think of this as slamming the person down, but it could equally be adding the extension, which is what we're going to do with the foot. So when we extend the foot at that last phase, it reaches the foot forwards and brings it down. 1, 2, and 3. And there is almost a sense of falling into the foot. And there's a point there where you're sort of double weighted because it's all on the turns now. I'm not standing here motionless, stepping, and then moving into the foot, motionless, step, and then move into the foot. So it's all turning and wriggling. So there's a moment where you're sort of double weighted, but as it turns back, it just pulls the other foot up. And so you can get that added extension by just maintaining the turning in the hips and the waist. If I was to stop at that point, I would be double weighted. I wouldn't really be able to pull my back foot up without lunging a little bit with my spine. But because I'm keeping the turning going, I can reach a bit too far, and then the back foot will pluck up on the next turn. 1, 2, 3, and down. And then as it turns back, it catches the ground and brings the other foot up. And it really is like something in your mind has to become really fierce to make that added extension. In the same way that here something has to happen. You have to sort of abandon, really release and just let go of something here. It's the same here. 1, 2, and ooh, and then it's down. And it's difficult. So here, extend and down. And now stepping with the same foot. So just making a square really. Feel that fierceness in the spirit as you reach beyond your means, beyond your natural boundary here. Ooh. And then let's just try the other leg. So I'm sticking to the ground. That contact between me and the ground is foremost in my energy, my mind, my body. Sink into this foot, and there's that sense of this leg in exactly the same way we've just been stepping, coming out. You know, when a tiger prowls, you can see its energy leading its body. You can see its mind at work, that hunting mind. And it can only do it because its body is just so relaxed. And you can see it's figures of eight, but very, very natural. So if you imagine, the tiger walking like this, really low, really alert, then basically that foot is doing a figure of eight as it catches the ground, but it's barely visible. So that's how we would like our figures of eights to be, just a whisper. In our efforts to visualize, we don't want to get tense. So our visualized structures are natural. They're a product of relaxation and energy, not the product of thinking and cleverness. Just a little bit of the form, maybe just up to the ward-offs. Just do it the way that we'd normally do it, where we're just single weighted. And so I'd sink down into this foot. I'd step here. I'd move across. So that's basically the way we learned it, very much by the numbers, very sort of stop and start. You have to practice it like that to start with, just to get sense of where your weight is and the sense of your balance. So you should be able to just lift the foot off the ground and just be stable. So what practicing that way gives us a sense of our own stillness, our own inner stillness, which is located, centered in the Dan Chen. So when I pick the foot off the ground, I'm stable. Once that's developed, you don't need to continue practicing in that way because you already have it. We practice something to get good at something so that we can then go on to the next stage. It's a bit like playing a musical instrument. You practice certain exercises so that you can then play pieces that resemble those exercises. First and foremost now is not our balance and our single weightedness, but our sticking. So for that, we have to imagine the other person. Feel your feet just spread and flat on the ground. So I just sink down and this foot just goes out. I don't want the feeling that I have to go, ooh, here. And I have to be able to suspend this foot indefinitely. And then from there, I can step. And then from there, I can move. So now we're stepping without the weight being 100% in the other leg. So it's much more like the stepping in the Dalu, or like the stepping that you would be doing if you were just moving around in your normal life. You know, when we walk, we don't do this sort of thing because it would just take too long. So I just sink down into this foot and this foot just pops out. I've still got a little bit of weight in it. So when it hits the ground, it sort of slaps and then it's there, it's stuck. So I sink and this foot goes out. And then I just move across and just circle the hands, just very sort of matter of fact. And now I've got this posture, the break here, the tail going back a little bit, almost a sense of heaviness here. My balls are really heavy, dragging me down to the ground. And my hands are really connecting to the ground. This is just your tail, really. My tail is directing backwards to get the hands to come up. And then my tail just hooks under a little bit. So I want that to come from the action of my tail. I want everything, really. And now here, I just reach forwards. Again, that's my tail going out. And then this is yielding. So this is my spine bowing. So my tail is sort of coming under a little. Here, this is like the arching spine, the first bit, and then the bowing spine. So it's just all breathing. Now here, this is the important bit really for what we're doing now, this hand. Because this hand has to really get in as though I'm sticking to them. Like imagine their body. Imagine their body is coming in. So here I'm sticking to them. This is coming from this leg, but I'm not completely in that leg. I've just reached forwards and now here I'm yielding. And this hand is just sticking so that when the person pulls away, they feel me yielding and they try to pull back. And I just follow that. So I enter, I yield, there, start pulling back, and I just stick to them. And the foot sort of steps without you having put all the weight in this foot. It's a very different way of working because what's first and foremost is the sticking. So I stick to the person in and I feel them moving. And then here, then this really is the attack. This is really just the sticking. I'm just sticking to them. Now this is the attack that whiplashes their neck. Because you're holding their hand here. They're flying up in the air and moving in that direction. And then I just yank their arm and it just whips into the neck. This is the theory. So I enter, I yield. But now here I have to have a real sense that I'm gathering the person in. I've really got them. This hand is really holding or touching the top of their arm. This is guiding them through. And then as soon as I feel their mind even starting to panic a little bit and pull back, I'm on them. I've stepped forwards. I haven't really come completely into this foot because it would just push me against them. Let's try again and do the next little posture. Enter. I yield. I'm sticking with my bottom hand. I just add a little bit of energy to their withdrawal, and it's all over. I'm turning to meet the person, and then I yield with my left hand. And again, I want to really feel the importance of this bottom arm. That's guiding the other person through as well as the first hand. So from here, I reach and I gather them through. And then this just pops out, this foot. And then I just scissor the arm. They feel their arm breaking. They twist it to stop that happening and start pulling out. And then I just come forwards. I just follow through. So this is really when the scissor with the arm is finished. The rest is just me following through and sending them on their way. So let's try it once more. I'll do it this way. So I enter, yield, let the left arm really come up here. Here I'm really gathering and sticking, and then this just comes out and this pops down. And then here I'm entering. This hand has to come up so it can get involved in the yielding. This just steps forwards. This comes up to scissor and round. So we just end up with these sort of dramatic postures. Try and get everything as big as possible. So the circles are really big and the reach is really big at the end. So let's finish. The possibility of sinking down into thighs parallel to the ground is there. You wouldn't have to make an adjustment here to get down. So sinking, it's really important, and just getting as close to the ground as you can. And you find if you free this area and don't worry about sticking your bum out, then you can get really low. You can get thigh parallel to the ground even when you're in the back foot. But you have to sort of work with these flying steps. We used to call them flying steps, where you step with the foot without the weight being out of it. To do those flying steps, you just need a real sense of your own center and your own balance and your own stillness. And you get that by practicing with the single weighted. So if you get someone working in this sort of way too soon, it's just hopeless. Their energy gets obviously scattered.